Hi, it's Musolini, the Merchant of Success. Welcome to this program on how to overcome challenges and achieve unlimited success 2.0. And the reason I'm putting the unlimited success is usually we are limited to how far we can go because of perceived or real challenges. I'm saying perceived because some of them are just imaginary and some are real. That's why I'm saying perceived and imaginary. Meaning if those challenges weren't there, then you would, whether perceived or real, then you and I would achieve much more, right? Again, typically I go through 5 segments. We look at the clarity of what is and why. We look at the mindsets. We look at the strategies. We look at the skill sets, and of course the mastery in terms of owning this content. Let's kick off with clarity. I like this quote from Abigail Adams. It's a very useful quote, as you'll notice, that it is not in the still calm of life or the repose of a Pacific station that great characters are formed. The habits of a vigorous mind are formed in contending with difficulties. Just like doing exercise, it's usually when your body feels like giving up, when the muscles are paining and you still continue going, that the strength and resistance of the muscle is formed. So in the same way in life, typically it's like during those challenging moments, that's when true character is formed. Lee Iacocca is credited for having turned around the Chrysler company then when he was CEO. So he's one of those most famous CEOs. And he said, we are continually faced by great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as insoluble problems. I believe there's someone else who said that, no, let me not quote that, but let's stick here together, in that sometimes what we consider to be problems or challenges, they're actually opportunities. In essence, when I'm teaching entrepreneurship, I usually reminded of a quote from Eben Pagan, who says that an entrepreneur is someone who solves problems at a profit. And when you consider that idea, that concept of how an entrepreneur solves problems at a profit, it means whereas others are complaining, an entrepreneur sees a business opportunity. So in the same way, what Lee Iacocca is telling us, that sometimes there are these so-called problems in quotes or challenges in quotes, since that's what we are talking about, yet in reality, they are opportunities, just about a question of you using different glasses to look at those issues before you. So why are we talking about overturning or overcoming challenges? Number one is, typically, we are faced with challenges our entire lives. So I'm yet to hear someone whose life is 100% challenge-free. So the difference is in the level of difficulty or level of perception, but in one way or the other, there are issues, there are challenges. It's a question of frequency, it's a question of magnitude, it's a question of perception, but typically, humanity in one way or the other, so long as you're a breathing human being, then in one way or the other, you're facing a challenge. Also, the other reason why we should explore this subject is challenges can turn into opportunities if handled well. And when you look at your life, there are challenges which have overwhelmed you, and there are challenges that you turned around into opportunities. Okay, so typically you find that there are people who just cry and crumble and challenges, and there are those who emerge. I will tell you, for example, like as of this recording, there are things I've done which I wouldn't have done had it not been the current pandemic that we are going through. And, the fact that, we are working from home, it's one of the reasons I'm able to do this series nonstop. I know that I created a couple of products in the previous lockdown. So it was a challenge. I had to switch my eyes and say, okay, what opportunity can I see in this? How can I create opportunities amid this challenge? That doesn't take away the limitations or the challenges of the lockdown and all that. But at the same time, there are also the other side, there are also a couple of opportunities. So I had two options: to either, bend down and cry and curse and whine and complain, or to create something, to add value to myself, to the community around me. I know I've done several free sessions, or products that have added a lot of value to people, and some were paid also. So I would say during these challenging moments, I would say I've done, of all the content I've created, I would say 80%, 70 to 80% has been free and 20 to 30% paid. And so either way, it's an opportunity. I'm creating value. The knowledge we are going to share here will equip you with skills to overcome life challenges, or to at least manage them with elegance. And here is the key: overcoming challenges equals leadership. Here is the key. Have you ever noticed that for every challenge in any community, when there is a challenge, people look up to their leader to think, okay, what is the leader thinking? What is the leader going to do? So in essence, they imagine and suppose that a leader is going to come up with something, with a plan, with a strategy, with an action plan, with a way of being that will enable the people he or she is leading to overcome that challenge. So just know that typically also these challenges are a test of your leadership. Can you still think straight when you are amidst challenges? So it's very easy to smile, to be happy, to move forward, to do something when everything is all rosy. There's power, there's glory, there's achievement. But where the real rubber meets the road is when there are challenges. How are you responding? That's the key question. And that's the true test of leadership. That's why you separate leaders from followers. Challenges is where you separate boys from men and girls from women. And that's leadership. Here are mindsets that can help you overcome challenges. The first mindset is seeking out the silver lining. The mindset is, what remains of this? Typically, there is always something that, in spite of the challenge. Let me use an extreme example. I don't know why it has just flashed in my head. I will take it that God wants me to use it. So I recall when my dad passed on, I was 17 years old. I remember one of the people there at the funeral, one of them saying, well, at least he has left us with some children. So meaning my dad was not totally gone, at least he had left some carbon copies, so to speak. God bless his heart. And it didn't take away the pain, of course, in that moment at least. But at least there was the silver lining, is that there was something was still existing. Not something, some people are still existing. His history was still existing in one way or the other. Leave alone the fact that I also inherited his name, in that his second name was also Musolini. So the key thing is, part of your mindset should always be, okay, what remains of this? Where is the hope here, so to speak? It's a very positive, it's a great mindset. The other key, which is related to the first silver lining, is the positive framing mindset. It's that concept of glass half full mentality. What could be good in this? And you're looking at what is filled in the glass, not what is lacking in the glass. So what is filling in the glass right now is that I am alive, I am kicking, the internet is on, I have an audience, and well, I should celebrate the people who are attending live, or I could be thinking, because I'll tell you, the truth is I expected a much bigger number than what I've been hosting. So there are a couple of things I could look at. I could just think, I could get lost in frustration or wonder or worry that, okay, where are all these thousands of people who should be attending live? Or I could say, you know what? Yes, I have an audience. There are people here, and these are the people God has given me, and these are the perfect people at this perfect moment in this glorious minute. And that's the truth. So you're the perfect audience at this perfect time with this perfect content in this glorious divine moment. So that's looking at a glass, that's a glass half full mentality. So glass half empty is looking at what is lacking and what's not there. And so I'm encouraging us to think that way, especially amidst challenges. The other mindset, which is very useful, is I can always get better. Meaning things can also get better. Today, I bumped into a client of mine. He lives in the neighborhood. I did some work with them about 6 months ago, or about 7 months, 6 to 7 months ago. And so I was asking him, I said, okay, how is business? He said, well, business has been beaten blue. Okay. And then he said, but we are hopeful. And then he asked me, how about you? I said, well, I'm also very, very hopeful. And the other thing I know is that where there is life, there is hope. So I know things will definitely get better. No doubt about that. Said, yeah, then we laughed, smiled, parted ways. He was going for a walk. I was also going for my morning walk. So it's not just about you getting better. It's also you knowing that things will get better. Meaning you get better at doing things, at executing things, because part of your challenge could be that you are not able to do something, or you've not executed something the way you would want to execute it. So you should tell yourself that I'll get better. And for situations like the conversation I had with a client of mine this morning, is that things will also get better. Again, where there is life, there is hope, right? The other one is appreciative inquiry mindset, and that is count your blessings. That's why for us who have been attending these live sessions, those of you who come in on time, I play that song, Count Your Blessings, okay? Which again, I will keep thanking Goreti Nabanoga and Susan Opok of Fawe for having introduced me to that song. It's a beautiful song, Count Your Blessings. And I like that line of one by one. So if you are to, because I mean, even this reading room alone, I'm seeing so many things, including a guitar I haven't played in a long while. All right. So there are so many things that we can count. If you have to count your blessings one by one, you'll be absolutely amazed. If we had to count our blessings one by one since childhood, then you will find that you actually have millions of blessings. I've actually never thought of that. It has just flashed in my head. Can you imagine if you counted your blessings from the time you were a child to all the good things that happened to you? Then you will realize that this other challenge that you're having, whatever it is, well, in comparison, it will not outweigh all these positive, wonderful things. So again, it's about mindset. It's about switching. It's not about eliminating. It's about you switching your mindset, which will put you in a much healthier state. Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual state. That's what we are doing. It's not about denying what is. It's just about how do we look at what is in the moment. And there are many choices. The other mindset is to always think there is plan A to Z. My main coach and mentor, when I say main, that's the person I've been working with for over 7 years now. We miss only 2 Mondays in a year. So meaning I engage with him 50 times a year without fail for 7 years now. Well, that's around 350 times sessions. So this is thought process. He says, always have a plan A, B, C, D, F, and G. So he doesn't call it up to Z, but that's really the concept. In that, for him, for example, he says he has like 6 computers and like 5 to 7 phones. I need to remember what's the exact number, but that's how he thinks, that if one doesn't work, the other one will work. If this doesn't will work. So meaning if one plan doesn't work, surely there must be other plans. Last night, we couldn't find the remote for TV. I wanted to watch the Community Shield game, and then we couldn't find the remote. And the person who was with the remote previously was my 7-year-old daughter. So I said, please look for the remote. She looked around the sitting room, couldn't find it. And she said, but I've looked everywhere. I said, no, there's no way you could have looked everywhere. It is definitely in this house. Therefore, you've not looked everywhere. It must be somewhere. Meaning, in my view, she had not explored every corner, every cranny and corner. So I said, no, you haven't looked everywhere. Say, but I've looked. I said, no, you haven't. So please go and keep looking. So unfortunately, she slept off when she hadn't found the remote. So last night, I actually found it on my reading table. I found it in the reading room. So it means she had come to the reading room and left it there. The point I'm making is sometimes when something happens, we say, I have tried everything. No, you haven't. I have engaged everything. No, it's not everything. Just say I've used what up till now, I've done plan A, B, C, D, E, it hasn't worked. But that doesn't mean that if you haven't explored F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, B. Yeah, and again, up to Z is just an image. Just know that there is an infinite number of possibilities. And I'm saying this not because I always practice this 100% of the time, no. But I know that it's the truth. And sometimes I find myself limiting myself. So some of the stuff that I teach, it's not like I'm 100% an angel in this. I just have to be, and I just need to be fully transparent with you. The point I'm making is there are always other options, but sometimes we say, I have tried everything. Let me just pause here and ask, just be honest. Have you ever used that word of I have tried everything? Let me first pause this. I'm seeing many yeses responding. I'm sure all of us have been in that spot. And I'm here to propose to you that no, you've not applied everything. It could be based on what you know or based on your awareness. That doesn't mean that it's everything. There are so many possibilities out there, an infinite number of possibilities. And as I'm saying this, I really feel that if you and I got this point, which I've just driven home, it's worth all your time you're going to spend in this content. That's it. to know that surely there must be a way out there that I haven't engaged. What is that? God, give me that way and give me the strength and the courage and the wisdom to know which way that is, and I execute it to get out of this. There is always a way. The challenge is we limit ourselves based on what we are thinking, feeling, or knowing in this moment, and we declare as if that's a moment of finality. And I'm saying, no, it's not the moment of finality. That's not the limit. It's just the beginning. Yesterday, I was talking to one of the coaching clients who said, oh, if I did this and this, the sky would be the limit. Well, the sky is that idea was developed of the sky is the limit many years ago, I'm sure before even there was even before aeroplanes, right? I mean, people are going to Mars, people are thinking about creating life in Mars and all this, and the sky is the limit. No, the sky is the beginning. So in the same way, whatever you feel is the limit, just know that's the beginning. It's just based on what you know now. And it's the beginning of you exploring what you don't know. Oh, I like the sound of that. Yeah. What you consider to be the limit, it's the beginning for you to explore what you may not know. It's the beginning for you to explore what else could be possible. It's not the end, it's the beginning of you discovering more miracles. It's the beginning of you discovering what else God has in store for you. It's the beginning of you exploring what the true spiritual possibilities are. It's the beginning of you knowing what the divine possibilities are. Yes! Are you getting this? Thank you, Lord. I'm also learning a lot as I'm teaching. Because some of these things, truthfully, is some of the things I'm saying right now, I've never said them. It's just, God downloading them. I'm just a messenger, so to speak, in this moment as I'm saying all this stuff. So it's a powerful, powerful concept. What you're calling everything is just a self-imposed limitation based on what you know or what you think you can do, but that doesn't mean that the possibilities are not out there. One of the quotes I remember coming across that I like sharing is that by the time you say it can't be done, someone else has already done it and now is already exploring better ways to do that thing, which you feel can't be done. Yeah, Magdalene is saying that sometimes you say I hit a dead end. Yeah, and a dead end is just a limitation that is perceived. So I've been to national parks a couple of times, and when you can see, you may see as far as you can see with your naked eyes. But when you get the binoculars, then lots of other possibilities emerge. You're able to see animals you could not see. You're able to see trees you could not see. So sometimes the idea, the concept here is not that you've hit a dead end. It is to ask for divine eyes so that you may see what you could not normally see. To seek for divine ears so that you may hear what you could not ordinarily hear. To seek for divine emotional feelings that you may feel what you could not feel before. To seek for a divine mind so that you can download thoughts that you could not ordinarily think about. Then all of a sudden, just like the binoculars that expand your possibilities, you start to see, hear, and experience what was not there before. That, my friend, then calls us to change our language. You've not hit a dead end. You've hit a new point that requires new eyes, new ears, new thoughts. Yes, I like that thought. It's not a dead end. You've reached a point where you need to access new thoughts or new ideas that you've not accessed before. Yes, that's it. That's it, my friend. So you and I need to start awakening to that idea. Godfrey says the top of one mountain is the base of another. Absolutely. That's not top of the world. Emily has reminded me of the quote I was searching, that it always seems impossible until it's done. That's by Nelson Mandela. Now, let's look at the strategies. Here are 6 key strategies for overcoming challenges. The first strategy is the team strategy. You form groups or teams, you work with others, you talk about the challenging times, use your social and professional resources in form of people. You see, with, I'm in an investment club and we talk about pooling resources. Now, in the same way, when you engage a team, you're engaging what we call collective intelligence, collective wisdom, collective experience. So for example, if you have a challenge and all you have is 10 years work experience, then all you're tapping into is 10 years of work experience. But if you're 5 people and one has 10, the other one has 5, then before you know it, you're tapping into 50 years of exposure and experience. Then all of a sudden, what you thought was a big deal becomes very tiny. So form groups, form teams, and you could even call them solutions teams. I like that idea. So that if you have a challenge, then you meet and you engage with one another and you talk to figure out what the solution could be. The other strategy is the opportunity and resource mapping strategy. Get your head up and journal the opportunities around you. Just explore all that and the resources at your disposal. What are the possible solutions? What is the way out? What do you have now? Before, I've used the analogy of Moses crossing the Red Sea. When he was going to cross the Red Sea, God asked him, when he was stuck seeking for help, God asked him, what do you have? Said, I have a staff. Said, okay, fine. Strike it. And the waters will part. And I also believe that there are those moments where God is just reminding us and asking us to say, okay, what do you have? So you're looking at the resources available to you. Because again, looking for what you're lacking is very, very seductive. Say, okay, I wish. I remember sometimes I would have these thoughts of, I wish my dad also had land like these other guys have lots of land. Oh, I wish I had these connections like these other people have connections. That I was not born with. But guess what? Also, God gave me lots of other inner resources, which is the resourcefulness. And those are infinite. So when we talk about resources, by the way, it's not just the physical resources or the money in your pocket. Even more so, it is the creativity, because that is unlimited. That's unlimited. Those are unlimited resources that I would invite you to look at. So when we talk about opportunity and resource mapping, you also not only look at the resources inside you, but what opportunities are available before you? What else are you not seeing that you could tap into? Is it an extra job? Is it another introduction? Is it a friend you haven't asked? Is it a book you haven't read? Is it a service that you could provide? Is it a product that you could sell? What is that? So you look at all these options around you and you ask yourself some of those questions. And you also ask, what is the way out? Do you notice the difference between I've hit a dead end to the question, what is the way out? Do you notice the difference between, oh, I don't have this, to, what could I be having now that I could utilize? Those will put you in totally different states of mind. And as such, will open up different possibilities for you. The other strategy is the changed perspective strategy. Put a positive spin to things. Don't generalize and make conclusions. Shift your perspective and switch on the enabling and empowering thoughts. Change your perspective. And one of the common ways I've seen that I believe is underutilized by most of us, including myself, those other perspectives. For example, what would God do? What would Jesus do? Meaning the other perspective you could adopt is, okay, if so and so, if you know someone very powerful and creative, you could also switch on the perspective of okay, what would so and so do? Okay. My favorite billionaire you've had me say is Richard Branson. So what would Richard Branson do? How would Elon Musk think about this issue, this challenge that I'm going through right now? What would he think? Most likely he would roll down and laugh and clap his hands and cry with tears of wonder and surprise. Like, what? So perspectives. So just change the perspective and look for what is the most empowering perspective that I can use right now. Which glasses do I need to put on right now? That would be most helpful. The other strategy is the maximum attention strategy. So meaning, pay attention to what this means to you. What are the different perspectives? How do you feel about it? Is the challenge perceived or real? Pay attention and have a panoramic view. Ask all the right questions. So when I say maximum attention strategies, you ask as many useful questions as possible. And I like these two concepts, the panoramic view. So you zoom out and say, okay, look at from this other perspective, this higher level perspective, what am I seeing? The other question I want you to really pay attention to is this: is the challenge perceived or real? One day I was chatting with my daughter fears lizards, and you know, these house lizards, it's not a big deal. So to my knowledge, I mean, it has never bitten anyone or anything, and not anyone. So I said, no, it's not a big deal. I said, no, mommy told me that these big lizards can bite. I said, but this is a house lizard, it cannot do anything. And she was immobilized to move because she felt that this lizard was dangerous and that it could either bite her or something. That was a perceived challenge. Now, of course, I can refer to my daughter because I have a higher perspective, I have more experience in this. But guess what? As an adult, I also have so-called challenges which are just perceived. You and I do, if we were to look very closely. There are challenges, I'm sure, which you felt before was a huge challenge. And then as you've grown in wisdom and understanding, you're like, huh? You mean this thing was really stopping me? So meaning, and most challenges are like that. They are just perceived. It's just a mental block more than a real block. So we need to keep asking ourselves those challenging questions. The other strategy is the self-responsibility strategy. You have to own up. You take it upon you. Don't focus on blaming others. Be in charge. Take control. It is you to lift yourself up. That's one of the biggest ones. You have to own up and know, and say, you know what, this is my stuff. I have to figure out a way. One of my teachers was sharing a story of how the brother-in-law who is well off right now, when he was going through some challenges with financial challenges, he didn't share that story with anyone. And this other gentleman, this teacher of mine was sharing, he's a multi-millionaire. And so he got to know that these guys were just living on noodles and, $1 noodles and all that. So he said, but how come you didn't tell me all this? I could have been of help. He said, no, it's my responsibility to feed myself, to take care of myself, take care of my family. I was like, wow, that's a fantastic mentality. This is someone who's saying, look, it is my stuff. I have to own it up. I have to figure out a way rather than being a burden to others. And I believe that if you and I can adopt that mindset of always taking full responsibility 100% of the time, we would access so much power and possibility. And I choose to leave it there. I believe it's super clear. Next, finally, is the action. Taking action is the apex of overcoming challenges. All the planning and mindset shift, help, and action is what will deliver results. So, just a moment, I need to correct something here. Yeah, it's actually fine. So, yeah, the planning and the mindset helps, and yet the ultimate move is the action. That's what delivers results. You must get up and do something. You must get up and do something. There is a young man, I believe I shared that story during the last lockdown, where this young man, I met, he saw me on the road. I was walking, I'd gone to the supermarket, I'd bought stuff, and this young man, he must have been 13 years old, he's from a different country, but I'll share this story because it's a useful story in my view. And he was alone in the house with a younger brother who was about 7. So his elder brother, who was taking care of them, had disappeared. And now they had been at home without food for days. And he was worried that his brother might pass on. So he decided to walk and seek for help. So I felt touched and supported him, and like for either 2 or 3 weeks, I believe they were like 2 or 3 weeks. I just need to remember what. And then he later disappeared. But what stuck with me is at least this man, if he had not stepped out of the house, he wouldn't have met me, or he wouldn't have met whichever help he had found wherever he went. I like the illustration that God feeds the birds of the air, but guess what? The birds must come out of the nest, go and get the food. Meaning the birds must take action. God does not bring the food and deliver it in the nest. No, the food is out there. The bird must fly out of the nest or the tree and go get the food. The food is available somewhere. In the same way, the solutions are available somewhere. That's my belief. They are available somewhere. And one of the best ways to know and find out, apart from the mindset and the planning, is that you have to actually take some action. Because you see, the beauty with action is that you get feedback. You get feedback of what's not working, what's possible, what's not possible. And, you know, that God helps those who help themselves indeed. I don't know who came up with that saying. I don't know where it is, but even the Bible tells us that faith without action is dead. That's according to James. So you have to have the faith that's true and 100% true. And you have to back that faith with action. Justine says, where there is a will, there will always be a way. Let's have the will to continue searching for the way out. Absolutely. Absolutely. Barak says, I was penalized by URA for late filing of returns because the guy who does my accounting did late filing. Responsibility was pushed on me by force. I took a course in accounting and it wasn't pushed on you by force. Yes, it was your responsibility. And I have faced those challenges myself. So thanks for the lesson on you taking a course in accounting. Thanks for the inspiration. Brilliant, brilliant lesson in responsibility. Thanks for sharing that, Mubarak. Emmanuel has shared the James verse, James chapter 2, verse 17. Even so, faith, if it hath no works, is dead, being alone. Okay. Now we are switching to the skill sets. So here is the 7-step model for overcoming challenges. Number 1, you retreat, you step aside or step back because that it's hard. Someone can type in the chat box if you remember this illustration. I just need to, I believe it's hard to see yourself when you're in the frame of the mirror itself. When you have to step away from the mirror to be able to see the full picture. You retreat, you need to retreat. But there's a precise saying around that, okay? You cannot see yourself when you're just in the frame itself. You have to step back, then see the problem. So meaning retreat. And that might mean also sleeping over the problem or the challenge, so to get new insights. So when you step back or when you retreat, then you're able to get a new perspective, because when you get lost in that, so sometimes it might mean going away from the noise, so that you can hear with clarity. You can hear from God with clarity. That's an extremely useful step for you to take. Next is you evaluate the impact. What does this mean to you? How does this impact you? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, you need to evaluate the impact, because once you know the impact, it gives you the perspective of how urgent the issue is and also what you may need to mitigate quickly to make sure that you don't go down the drain completely. Step 3 is consequence identification. So when you say, so you might be wondering what's the difference between the impact and the consequence. So evaluating the impact, so the first step is broader, and consequence identification is now being more specific. So you first get the big picture and now you go into the specifics. And then next, you plan the way forward. What's then the plan? How do we move forward? And by the way, you can use this model also even at the workplace. It doesn't have to be just for you as an individual, okay? Next is option weighing. So you've developed the plan, but then you need to look at this is the plan, but what are the options here? And then you weigh the options. Because when you're planning, you don't just, like I mentioned, you don't just have one plan, only plan A. Ideally, you need several plans. You need different scenarios and different options. Now you have to weigh the options. Then once you've weighed the options, you also need to, and you've made the choice, then you need to do resource planning and deployment. The people, the money, the internet, the time, the space. Okay. So what are those? So it's not just about planning, it's also about resource planning. It's not just about planning the move, but what resources will you need to move forward? And when we talk about resources, I really believe that one of the resources that is rarely paid attention to is the issue of time. People think about money or people and all this, and we forget about the time required, the energy required. All that has to be planned. And then you're able to see whether you can pull it off or not. And then course of action selection. Say, you know what? This is it. We are moving in. And this is how we are moving in. And amidst all this, you need a couple of things. Number one, consistency. And when I say consistency, if you want to so one of the areas that there are some areas in my life where I'm not super consistent, and some of my areas I'm super consistent. And those areas where I'm super consistent, then the results show. So if you're to get out of a certain challenge, then you need, let me give you an example. Let's just suppose one of your challenges has been health. And I mean, the doctor has told you, look, you either start to exercise or there will be bigger trouble. So consistency means that, for example, every single day, you know, at this particular time, for this number of minutes, I have to work out. One of the mastermind members, Priscilla, was sharing with me that, by the way, for me, even Sunday, I work out. It's every single day. I was like, oh, wow, that's a great idea, because I usually take Sundays off. And then she was like, okay, the challenge is when you take, I've done it before, you take Sunday off, before you know it, you're taking Monday off, then before you know it, 3 days are off, then before you know it, you take a week off. So moving forward, that's something I'm planning to do, to say, okay, no, even Sundays, no, let's go. I might make it lighter, but we go, all right? Of course, you have to pay attention to your mental well-being, because that's about psychology. And then you keep a positive attitude. And of course, please persist, 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 persist. I cannot emphasize that enough. You have to keep going. Where I've had the biggest breakthroughs are those moments where I've just hung in there. Just hang in there. Then before you know it, an opportunity pops up when others have already given up. So you have to hang in there. Are you persistent enough? And when there is a challenge and you have a plan and you're deploying this plan, please persist, persist, persist. Today, I subscribe to a blog, which I would encourage you to check out. It's fanamstreet.blog. Fanam is FARNAM, then street, the normal street, .blog. And that guy sends out an email every Sunday. So as of this recording, it's a Sunday. And I came across this quote. I was like, how perfect. Isn't God amazing how things flow into play? How things, here is the quote, which I thought is perfect for what we are talking about today. That things falling apart is a kind of testing and also a kind of healing. We think that the point is to pass the test or to overcome the problem. But the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Then they come together again and fall apart again. It's just like that. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, and for joy. When we think that something is going to bring us pleasure, we don't know what's really going to happen. When we think something is going to give us misery, we don't know. Letting there be room for not knowing is the most important thing of all. That's by Pam Chodron, When Things Fall Apart. Not the other African version of Things Fall Apart, but this one, the title is When Things Fall Apart. That's the author. And I felt there was a lot of wisdom in this, in that life, just like water, it moves, it goes in waves, up and down. And so just the reminder that we go through cycles, that life is a series of cycles. That's what this reminds me. Life is a series of cycles. They fall apart, they are rebuilt again together. You go up, then down, up and down. So the trick here is to remind yourself that when you're down, the next level is up. So you're going to get up. That's the next level. So, and I also like the concept of staying in the space of not knowing, of being open to what might happen, of being in a state of curiosity, of wonder, being open to be amazed and pleasantly surprised. I like that word, by the way. Being open to be pleasantly surprised. I wonder what the pleasant surprise is going to be out of all this. I like that. But if we held that mindset, then I wonder what the pleasant surprise is going to be out of all this. Because guess what? Usually there is always one. The challenge is sometimes we miss it. So what if we kept an open mind to see what that could be? Patricia says, I've just learned that retreat part. I used to panic and make more mistakes and stress. Haha. Yes. So the key thing is to relax, retreat, because when you're in panic mode, then you're not going to think clearly. So that's why the retreat part helps you. You're able to clear your mind and then think with clarity. And part of it is exercise as an example. So my wife used to walk around like 10 times around the route so recently she pushed it to 15. So I asked her, I said, how come? She said, well, it helps me clear my mind and I think more clearly. So you can always find something that helps. A retreat may not necessarily mean hiding something. It might also mean doing something totally different that helps to clear your mind. Emmanuel is reminding us of Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Exactly. Things always work out for the good. Good. Thank you, Godfrey. This is so cool that you will not believe the pleasant surprise from these sessions, Ethan. Yeah. Let me look forward to what those pleasant surprises are. Oh, thank you, Godfrey. Yes. So do the skill sets make sense? Please type in the chat box, let me know. Oloma is like 50 sessions. Yeah, give me the topics. I have a couple of them in my head, a few of them, but not all the 10. I have a few that I'm thinking about. But most importantly, if you're able to tell me what you would want me to focus on, that would be cool. Now, in terms of mastery, this is what I want you to do, is identify a challenge you or someone you know well are facing right now, plug in the 7-step model given before, and then you see how that works. So again, the 7-step model, it is right here. So you just plug it in, you retreat, you evaluate, you look at the concept, you plan the way forward, you do option weighing, you do resource planning, then you do a course of action, and of course, make sure that you're consistent, mental, be positive attitude, and persistent. So you plan it out, use this 7-step model for your next challenge and look at what sort of pleasant surprises are going to pop up for you. All right? All right, so later, I would encourage you later today to make sure that you again reflect what did you find most useful in this presentation and how are you going to implement the lessons moving forward in your life and career stroke business. And some of us, work or are employed, we have careers and we have businesses. So it could be both. All right. And then think through, especially around application. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Lillian was saying that this is so rich and practical. I appreciate the preparation to make it easy to apply in our life spheres. Great.